Okay, so if you actually understand fractions, well, then this should be a very easy problem to solve even without using a calculator. All right, so let's going to take a look at the question. And the question is, what is the LCD between these two fractions? So we have a fraction here and a fraction over here. And what is the LCD? Well, let's take a look at each respective denominator. So the LCD stands for the lowest common denominator. So the first denominator is 2 cubed times 3 times 5 squared, and the second denominator is 2 times 3 squared times 5. All right, so this is a multiple choice question. Let's go take a look at our answers. So A, 30 is the LCD 30, B is at 150, C is at 300, or D is at 1800. All right, now try not to use a calculator, but if you want to use a calculator, that's perfectly fine. Either way, put your answer into the comment section. I'll share the correct answer in just 1 second. Then, of course, I'll explain this problem step by step. But before we get started, let me quickly introduce myself. My name is John, and I have been teaching middle and high school math for decades. And if you need help learning math, check out my math help program at tcmathacademy.com. You can find a link to that in the description below. And if this video helps you out, or if you just enjoy this content, make sure to like and subscribe, as that definitely helps me out. All right, so if you, again, understand fractions, then you should hopefully understand the concept of the lowest common denominator. All right, now we need to figure this out, but our denominators here are kind of written in a funny way. But again, if you're strong with basic math and fractions, you should be able to pretty easily, quickly identify the correct answer. All right, so let's go ahead and actually see the correct answer right now. The correct answer is D, 1800. All right, now if you got this right, you definitely get a happy face, an A plus, a 100%, and a certificate of excellence because you definitely appear to be a certified professional expert in the area of finding the lowest common denominator between two fractions. All right, this is an absolute critical math skill for everybody from basic math into advanced algebra. And it is a very confused skill as well. A lot of people think they're good at finding the LCD, where actually they can find the LCD when it comes to easy problems, but something like this, it gets a little bit more interesting. All right, so let's go and get started here. So here is our problem. Now, what should we do? Well, some of you might be saying, hey, Mr. YouTube Math Man, I think I'm going to just multiply all these numbers together. So 2 cubed would be an 8, and then we have a 3, and then 5 squared is 25. So you could actually, do all this math and see the actual denominator, but that's really not necessary in this particular problem. Now, some of you might be saying, all right, I'm just going to go ahead and take a guess. And if you took a guess, you know what? I'm happy you did because unless you're going to be penalized on a multiple choice math exam for a wrong answer, always take a guess. So if you're like, I'm feeling lucky today, I think C is looking pretty good to me. Well, circle C. Unfortunately, that is wrong because we know the right answer is D. But some people might say, well, let's see here. I'm going to look at the answer 30. Maybe it's 2 times 3. That's 6 times this 5. That gives me 30. That looks pretty good. Well, that is wrong as well. But again, if you don't know this is a multiple choice exam, take a guess, right? That's definitely not a bad thing. And another quick tip for those of you that still have to take math exams, never leave a question blank. Okay, even if you don't know what to do, write something down. Whatever it is, your teacher might just give you a tiny 1 or 2 points for just trying. Okay, now all that aside, we need a strategy here, and that strategy is what is the LCD and how to find it, right? Really, that's what we need to do. And so let's talk about that right now. All right, so some of you out there, matter of fact, I think a lot of you probably feel pretty confident about your knowledge of the LCD. You might be saying, all right, Mr. YouTube Math Man, I am an expert about the LCD. Well, that's awesome. Okay, go ahead and tell me, what is the LCD? Give me a definition of the lowest common denominator, and then give me a procedure to find it. Now, some of you might not like that now, right? You were like, well, I kind of know what the LCD is about. I don't want to do that, Mr. YouTube Math Man. That's too much work. Well, listen, let's get into it because if we don't understand how to answer this question, there is some gaps in your knowledge of fractions. This is really important, and let's get into it right now. Okay, so here is two fractions. What is the LCD? Now, a lot of you are going to say, Mr. YouTube Math Man, this is easy. The LCD is 15. And you would be correct. So let's go back to this definition of, or this question, what is the LCD? And let's answer that first, and then we'll talk about how to find it. All right, so the lowest common denominator is 15. Now, first of all, why do we even have to have the LCD? Well, when we are adding or subtracting fractions, we cannot add or subtract fractions unless the denominators are the same. Okay, so here we're going to have to rewrite these fractions such that they have the same denominator, and that same denominator, of course, is the lowest common denominator. So that's why we're interested in the LCD, but that's kind of a separate discussion. We're not going to be talking about how to add or subtract fractions in this video. We're just focused in on the LCD and how to find it. All right, so one way to think of the LCD, matter of fact, let's put this up here. Here is our LCD right there, 15. It's the lowest number that both of the denominators go into. Now, if you happen to have 3 or 4 denominators, well, again, it's the lowest number that these numbers can divide into without a remainder, okay, or a remainder of 0. Okay. So 15 is the lowest number that both 5 and 3 can divide into. Now that's a pretty good way of thinking about the LCD, but really technically the LCD of a fraction or two fractions is the lowest common multiple. Okay, now here's another fancy math term, lowest common multiple of the denominators of these values, right? So some of you are like, oh no, boy, another basic math term that I totally forgot. Well, let's go ahead and talk about the lowest common multiple because we need to understand it. All right, so remember the LCD is 15, but this is the lowest common multiple between these two numbers here. Okay, so this is not that difficult. So our two denominators is 3 and 5, all right? So 3 and 5. Now, what are multiples? We're talking about lowest common multiples. Well, a multiple is just when you multiply numbers by 1, 2, 3, 4, etc., and so forth. So 3 times 1 is 3. 3 times 2 is 6. 3 times 3 is 9. 3 times 4 is 12. These are multiples of 3. Okay, now you could just continue this on, for as long as you want. But if we're trying to find the lowest common multiple between 3 and 5, we need to list out multiples of each number. So let's talk about 5. So 5 times 1 is 5. 5 times 2 is 10. Okay, that's a multiple of 5. 5 times 3 is 15. That's a multiple of 5, and so forth. Okay, now let's go ahead and take a look at our list, and hopefully we have some common multiples. And some of you might be saying, hey, Mr. YouTube Math Man, check it out right there. 30 and 30, these are common multiples. You're absolutely right. These are common multiples between 3 and 5. But is it the lowest common multiple? No, the lowest common multiple is 15. So you can have common multiples, but there's only one lowest common multiple. Okay, so this is what we're trying to do. We're trying to identify the lowest common multiple between the numbers in the denominator. Okay, that is the LCD. Now, some of you out there, most of us, when we learn basic fractions, we look at these numbers and we're like, all right, what's the lowest number that both of these numbers divide into? And that, again, that's not a bad way to think about it, but we're going to really up our knowledge about the LCD right now. Okay, so let's talk about another way to find the LCM, or really the LCD. So we could list out a bunch of multiples, but this would be quite challenging depending upon the numbers in the denominator. It's a completely different approach here, and this is the one I want you to remember. All right, so here is the formula that I want you to kind of put in your long-term memory when it comes to the LCD, the lowest common denominator, which again is the lowest common multiple of these the denominators. So effectively, I'm going to explain this here. It is equal to, the LCD is equal to the prime factors, okay, of each of these denominators. So we have to look at these numbers and we have to consider what are the prime factors of each respective number. So what is the prime factor of 3? Well, 3 is equal to 1 times 3. That's it. So 1 is a prime number and 3 is a prime number. You can kind of disregard 1 because 1 is a factor of all numbers. So 3 is a prime number. So the prime factors of this number 3 is 3. What's the prime factors of 5? Well, it's just 5 by itself. So the LCD is the product of the prime factors of the denominators. Okay, so in this case, so that'd be 3 times 5, which of course is 15. Well, there's more to this story than this right here, but this is just a basic intro to how we find the LCD. Because I'm going to explain this in a way where not only can you find the lowest common denominator of arithmetic type of problems where you have fractions with numbers, but also algebraic fractions as well. This is a really confused part of algebra, but you'll be a certified professional if you stick with me. Okay, so let's go and get into this right now. So let's take a look at this problem. So let's suppose you were handed this question right here and you didn't have a calculator, or if you had a calculator, what is the LCD? Okay, so first of all, let's just see if you can determine it. So think about it in your own way. You might be saying, hey, Mr. YouTube Math Man, I got my own style of finding the LCD. That's perfectly fine. Figure that out. And then, of course, we're going to talk about how to imply or actually to apply this procedure I'm going to teach you, which is very important. Okay, so if we wanted to add these fractions, we can't because the denominators aren't the same. We need to find the lowest common denominator, which is the lowest common multiple of these denominators right here. All right, so this is what I want you to do. So what you're going to do is take each number and you're going to prime factor each number, okay? All right, so we have 40 and 50. Now, you could kind of list out the multiples in this particular case. Someone could make an argument. I'd rather just list out the multiples of 40 and 50. So 50 times 1 is 50, 50 times 2 is 100, 50 times 3 is 150, and so forth. 40 times 1 is 40, 40 times 2 is 80. But this is not a practical way. Okay, what you want to do is what I'm going to show you right now. All right, so you're going to take these denominators and you're going to build a factor tree. In other words, you're going to list out all the prime factors. So here's an example how to do this. So for 40, just start factoring this number. So there's different ways you can approach this. 2 times 20, 4 times 10, you'll get to the same answer. So 40 is 4 times 10. Now, is either one of these factors prime? No. So we can continue on. So 4 is the same thing as 2 times 2. These are prime numbers. 10 is the same thing as 2 times 5. These are prime numbers. So here are all the prime factors of 40. I'll show you more about this in just 1 second, but let's do the prime factors of 50. So 5 times 10. 5 is a prime factor, so we just drop that down. And then 10 we could break up as 5 times 2. So the prime factors of 50 is 5 times 5 times 2. All right, so here is really what we want. Okay, we want to look at each number, okay, in terms of its prime factors, but if there's any repeating factors, like right here, 2 times 2 times 2, or right here, 5 times 5, we want to express those as powers. This is really important. Okay, so 40 is the same thing as 2 times 2 times 2, or 2 cubed times 5, and 50 is the same thing as 5 times 5, or 5 squared times 2. All right, so now let's go ahead and use this information to find the LCD. All right, so here is our lovely little formula for the lowest common denominator. Remember, it's going to be the product of the prime factors, but there's a bit of a twist here. So what we have to do is look at the prime factors in both denominators, okay? So here we have a 2, here we have a 5, here we have a 5, and here we have a 2. So do we need to write 2 cubed and 2? Do we need every single prime factor represented? The answer is no. Okay, we do have 2s and 5s with various powers, right? So the key here is you select the highest power, okay, of that number. So for example, when it comes to 2, we have a 2 cubed and a 2 to the first. We're going to take 2 cubed because it's the highest power of 2. Okay, so this is why you want to write your numbers in terms of prime factors as powers. Okay, so we need this in our LCD. And then when it comes to 5, here we have 5 to the first, but here we have 5 to the second. We need that as our prime factor. So the lowest common denominator between 40 and 50 is going to be 2 cubed. Okay, that's the highest power of 2, and 5 squared, which is the highest power of 5. So 2 cubed is 8. And 5 squared is 25, so 8 times 25 is 200. Now, we would have gotten to 200 on our little multiple list here if we would have kept going, but again, this is not a practical way to find the LCD. All right, so if you are understanding now, even if you got 200, I can assure you I can give you more interesting problems that you're not going to want to list out the multiples. You need to understand how to factor and build the LCD from all the prime factors of the respective denominators. Okay, so now we're ready to take the next step and actually answer the question of this, problem. And the next step, of course, is having you quickly subscribe to my YouTube channel before we solve the problem. Now, hopefully, there's two words in your vocabulary. That is help, okay, and goals, all right? So you need to set goals, okay? Now, this is a really important thing. Now, if you are looking to improve in math, you got to be specific about what, level of math you want to get to. So, set a goal. In other words, I want to learn algebra in 6 months, or I want to get an A in my geometry course. Whatever the case is, you just don't want to learn math with not, having a specific goal. So think about what you're doing. Again, I'm going to just kind of keep this in terms of mathematics. But if you are a math student, or if you're just interested in this video, maybe you're saying, my goal is to, kill 15 minutes with Mr. YouTube Math Man and learn something about fractions. That's perfectly fine. But or improve your math skills. Okay, but that is, maybe part of a bigger goal. But anyways, my goal is to grow this channel as big as I possibly can. That is my goal, okay, to help as many people as I possibly can. And if you need help in math, that's perfectly fine. Oftentimes we need help to achieve our goals, right? And I need your help to achieve my goals. And the best way to support my work is to hit that subscribe button. It really does tell YouTube to push out my content to more people that can benefit from this stuff. And when it comes to fractions, this is one of the most confused topics, specifically the LCD. So by you subscribing, you're really probably going to be helping out someone else in this world to understand fractions. And by the way, if you're going to do that, make sure to hit that notification bell. When we finish this problem up, I'll give you some specific suggestions on how you can learn more about fractions. But let's get back to the problem here. All right, so here is our problem. Now, take a look. We already have our denominators factored. And if you look, these are all prime factors. I'm like, oh, wow, prime factors. We don't even have to do anything here. This is super easy. Matter of fact, how can we identify the LCD? Well, we don't need to build out the numbers. What we need to do is to just select the prime factors of the respective denominators. So let's take a look. We have 2, so this is a 2 to the first. This is 2 cubed. We need to take the 2 cubed because it's the highest power. So that will be in our LCD. How about 3? Well, we have 3 to the first and 3 squared, so we need the 3 squared. We have 5 squared and 5 to the first. We need the 5 squared right here. All right, so to get the LCD, all we have to do is go, all right, 2 cubed is 2 times 2 times 2 is 8, 3 squared is 9, 5 squared is 25. And again, even without a calculator, just do some basic math here. And this is a multiple choice question. You can clearly see that the answer here is 1800, or 8 times 9 times 25. All right, so some of you might be saying, boy, Mr. YouTube Math Man, you could have just cut right to the chase and showed me how to answer the problem, okay? Well, that's not the point of this video, okay? I've been doing this for decades. As a matter of fact, when I teach people about math, as students, or, whether I don't do any more tutoring directly, I just have too many people in my program to be able to help one-on-one. But, you just get good at something, and we all get good at whatever we do for a long time, and we learn a lot about. But I can just tell you right now, when it comes to math, a lot of people, okay, matter of fact, I think most people are they have too much, well, they're overconfident in their basic math skills, okay? Well, in other words, they believe they understand basic math better than they actually do. And one of the critical areas that people struggle in is fractions, okay? So let me give you a couple quick suggestions on how you can improve in basic math and fractions. So if you go to the description of this video, you'll see some course links. So the first is my Math Foundations course. That's for those of you that may want to do a quick basic math review. It's only a 3-chapter mini course, but it's all basic math to include fractions, decimals, all that kind of good stuff. Everything that you kind of forgot way back in elementary and primary school. Now, if you want to take it a step further and you're not a math student, check out my Math Skills Rebuilder course. In that course, we do basic math, algebra, geometry, even some basic trigonometry, and some probability and statistics. This will give you a very well-rounded math education, okay, for those of you that are not math students. Now, if you are a math student, then you might want to check out like my pre-algebra course. I teach you fractions in there. But if you need to review basic math, then you need to take a look at one of those two courses. But don't forget, I have a ton of content on my YouTube channel. Matter of fact, I think I'm closing in on like 3,000 videos. So probably the best way to use all that content is to look at my various playlists or just maybe search my channel for a particular math topic. Hopefully it's there, and if it's not, if you keep subscribed to my YouTube channel, I'll probably make a video about that particular topic in the future. All right, so with all that being said, I definitely wish you all the best in your math adventures. Thank you for your time and have a great day.